In the future world, food remains a basic necessity, and thus agricultural culture still exists. However, the Imperial warships, demanding every grain from the planet verdant fields, undoubtedly push the farmers there to a dead end. To fight against the Imperial Legion, Korra travels across the universe in search of rebels. She finds the mighty Tarlac on Nuwadi Star, the furious nemesis in the mines of Dargus Star, General Titus in the arenas of Bolex, and the rebel Bloodaxe on Charon Star. Eventually, they kill General Nobel of the fearless warship in a battle on Gondua Star. According to Imperial law, after the death of any warship's commander, the ship must return to the Imperial mother planet to report. Korra thought this would save the farmers of verdant fields, but unknown to them, General Nobel had already been revived on the warship using high technology. His first thought upon awakening was to seek revenge on verdant fields. Soon after, Ali on verdant fields suddenly receives a transmission from the warship, informing him that it will arrive in 5 days and instructing him to harvest the crops as planned. Originally an Imperial soldier, Ali had defected to join the farmers. He quickly informed Korra and the others about the impending arrival of the warship. Korra, who had just been relishing their victory, felt immense pressure upon hearing this news. However, the inclusion of General Titus reassured her. Titus, once an Imperial general, gathered all the villagers and told them that darkness was coming in 5 days, and they needed to unite to face the warship. The crops in the fields were their strongest weapons and toughest armor, as Nobel's goal was to plunder all the food. Starting tomorrow, the villagers needed to harvest all crops within 3 days. During their last encounter with Nobel, Gunnar accidentally learned that Korra was the most wanted fugitive in the universe, making him curious about what she had done to earn such a notorious title. Korra was once the personal guard to the Imperial princess until the Emperor, influenced by his daughter, decided to stop territorial expansion. Traditionally, the Emperor presided over the completion ceremony of each warship. The Peace Envoy would be the last warship built by the Empire, signifying the end of the era of expansion. The Emperor, Empress, and Princess all attended this ceremony. However, Barley, the Emperor's top general, saw the cessation of expansion as cowardice. Thus, the ceremony turned into a grave for the Imperial family. Barley killed the Empress and the Emperor. As Barley's foster daughter, Korra was ordered to kill the princess. Fearing her foster father's demands, Korra gathered all her courage and pulled the trigger. She thought this act would earn her foster father's reward, but instead, he framed her for the Emperor's assassination, pinning all the blame on her. Korra could have killed Barley then, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. Eventually, Korra escaped on a shuttle from the Peace Envoy to the desolate verdant fields, making her the prime suspect in the Emperor's murder. The next day at dawn, the villagers began harvesting their crops, working together in the wheat fields. That evening, the warship called Ali again, with the commander questioning why he didn't see other soldiers. Ali lied that the others were busy harvesting and milling the wheat into flour. However, Nobel saw through Ali's lie, guessing that the other soldiers had been killed and that Ali had defected. It took 3 days for the villagers to finish harvesting. They celebrated in the village hall with singing and dancing, while James, a former armed robot of the late Emperor and now a labor robot since being discarded by the Empire, listened to the songs from atop a stone. Since arriving on verdant fields, James had developed self-awareness and ultimately chose to stand with the farmers against the Empire. The next day, Titus gathered all the villagers and instructed them to evenly distribute the grain among all the houses. This way, Nobel couldn't bomb the houses easily without destroying the grain. They also collected all firearms and melee weapons in the village, including those brought by the last Imperial squad. They made many scarecrows out of straw to train the villagers in using weapons and dug long trenches outside the village for defense. They even found the shuttle Korra had once piloted, which thankfully was still operational. After making all preparations, they openly shared their hatred for the Empire. Since the old Emperor's death, Barley had become the new regent, and Titus had once been an Imperial general. Barley had sent him to hover menacingly over the council on Saralo Star, which was planning to secede from the Empire. Unintimidated by the Imperial fleet, Saralo Star still chose independence. Barley then ordered Titus to fire on the capital, but Titus refused, leading to his ship being shot down and his crew captured by Imperial troops. Titus offered to surrender in exchange for his crew's lives, but Barley refused, killing them with cannon fire from the warship while forcing Titus to watch. The planet where Mylius was located also suffered an Imperial invasion. When the elders saw the warship, they chose to surrender. The weak and elderly were killed by the Empire, and the rest were sent as laborers across the universe until the rebels began attacking Imperial colonies and freeing the oppressed. Mylius joined the rebels as well. Nemesis was born in a small fishing village that was annihilated by the Empire. To avenge her people, she took up her ancestors' twin swords and mechanical arms. Tarlac had once been a prince. His father had gone to impeach Barley but was torn apart. Soon after, the Imperial Legion invaded his homeland. He watched his mother jump from a height to preserve their family line, and he was taken aboard a refugee ship, barely surviving. When it came Korra's turn, she didn't tell the truth, but merely said she was an orphan who had served on a warship before fleeing to Verdant Fields, which she considered home, starting a new life. As the warship neared Verdant Fields, Korra hid the shuttle in a waterfall cave. Meanwhile, those who had just finished planting bombs in the tunnels saw the warship above Verdant Fields. Although this planet was in an agricultural era, they dared not act rashly, as every room in the village below was filled with grain, and plundering that grain was their mission. Attacking the village would destroy it too. Commander Nobel, seeing from the real-time projection that the women and children were hiding in the village hall, ordered his subordinates to send the Black Storm Legion to the hall to take hostages when he went down to negotiate, using them as leverage to exchange for the grain. Soon, many shuttles carrying soldiers and armored vehicles left the warship for the village, and when Nobel arrived, Korra and Gunnar represented the village in negotiations. Nobel proposed that if Korra left with him, he would spare the people in the village. After all, Korra was the galaxy's most wanted fugitive. Knowing the villagers were no match for the warship and not wanting them to die for her, Korra decided to leave with Nobel. However, as she turned to say goodbye to her boyfriend Gunnar, he suddenly fired a shot at the village bell, signaling the start of the battle. The villagers hidden in the tunnels emerged, and a melee ensued, but Korra and Gunnar fled the village on horseback. Meanwhile, the Black Storm Legion had reached the village hall and was breaking down the wooden doors. Inside, Nemesis was ready to defend the women and children. As the situation turned chaotic, Commander Nobel boarded a ship to return to the warship. He had barely left when Korra and Gunnar followed in the shuttle hidden in the waterfall cave. Their shuttle, being the same model as Nobel's, confused the warship into thinking it was one of their own. As they neared the warship, Gunnar released a smoke bomb from the rear of their shuttle, simulating damage. Waiting for the shuttle to dock with the warship, Korra and Gunnar quickly disguised themselves as wounded soldiers. As the warship's crew took them to the medical room, Korra suddenly awoke and swiftly took out several Imperial soldiers. Then, Korra, familiar with the warship's layout from her service, quickly found the engine room. The engine, shaped like a human head, continuously expelled energy. She placed a bomb on the engine. Just as she finished, she was discovered by patrolling enemies. The soldiers informed Nobel that a woman had infiltrated the ship, and knowing it had to be Korra, he ordered the warship to fire on the village. No longer caring about the grain, faced with Nobel's command, his subordinates did not dare disobey. However, as the cannon was about to fire, the bomb on the engine timed out, and the resulting explosion altered the cannon's trajectory, sparing the villagers. But with the engine destroyed, the warship began to fall. Meanwhile, having completed their mission, Korra prepared to leave the warship in the shuttle, only to encounter Nobel. Gunnar, who was supposed to cover her, suddenly appeared, taking out Nobel's subordinates while being injured himself. As the warship rapidly tilted, a battle between Korra and Nobel became inevitable. As the warship plummeted, they continued to fight fiercely, sliding down until they hit a wall where Nobel grabbed Korra by the neck. Just as Korra was about to suffocate, Gunnar appeared. Although Nobel was stabbed, he remained resilient, grabbing the wall to prevent falling, while Korra quickly pressed the red button to close the door. In the next moment, the door trapped Nobel, and Korra decisively beheaded him, ensuring he could not be revived again. As the warship neared the ground, Korra helped Gunnar onto a shuttle, escaping just seconds before the warship crashed. Although they escaped, Gunnar died from his gunshot wound. Meanwhile, rebel reinforcements finally arrived, but Gunnar could no longer see them. Although the warship crashed, many surviving Imperial soldiers tried to escape in shuttles, but the arriving rebels dealt with them, securing victory for the villagers. It was a monumental victory of farmers against imperialism. The remaining villagers cleaned the battlefield, and at night, they gathered the bodies of those who had bravely sacrificed themselves for the village, sending their spirits off with a blazing fire. At this moment, the grieving Korra finally confessed to everyone that she was the one who had assassinated Princess Isa. However, Titus revealed to her that Princess Isa had not died. No one could easily kill the princess, as she was stronger than death itself. But no one knew where the princess was now, so Korra's next task was to find her.